Good afternoon, Marvel fans. So, yesterday was the big D23 Marvel panel thing at the D23 Expo. And apparently there were a couple interviews with Tom Holland, Spider-Man, and Kevin Feige. And some dipshit online keeps spreading this rumor that it's confirmation that Spider-Man is out of the MCU. It's a YouTube channel that keeps popping up in my feed. It's called Comic Book Cast 2, and there's this guy who keeps spreading false rumors. His opinion saying that Spider-Man is out of the MCU. First of all, if you're going to make a YouTube video, you're fine. It's fine to have an opinion. But to basically pass off as fact that Spider-Man is out of the MCU is narrow-minded, short-sighted, and it pisses a lot of people off. If you want to make it your opinion that Spider-Man is out of the MCU, by all means, say, hey guys, it's my opinion that Spider-Man is out of the MCU. Don't start talking about, oh, it's 100% fact that Spider-Man is out of the MCU, because it is not 100% fact that Spider-Man is out of the MCU. Now, you can say there's a lot of people who are out there who are holding on to hope and hoping that this deal gets done, and you can say I'm one of them, but really, when you look at the logistics of it, Sony's got nothing else. Let's put it like this. So, the reason why I wanted to do this today is because I kind of wanted to explain to you, everybody seems to think that this is the end of it, and nobody's bringing it, and nobody's even contemplating the economics of it, the financial consequences, anything like that. So, yeah, Sony and Disney are kind of having an issue right now when it comes to financing. But really, Sony, they don't have a leg to stand on. I keep saying this over and over again. I've said it in my last two videos. Sony does not have a pot to piss in. They do not have a leg to stand on. So, for example, Sony's profits, they do horribly in profits. They're one of the least profitable studios in Hollywood right now. They usually finish sixth, close to dead last every year among all the Hollywood studios. So you got five major Hollywood studios right now. That's Disney, that's Warner, that's Universal, that's Lionsgate, that's Sony. Okay, that's the big five. And out of those five, Sony is consistently near the bottom. They do not turn a profit at all. At some point, there's going to be a call for the film division to be sold, because Sony cannot compete in the landscape of streaming video and streaming media and streaming stuff like that. And the big prize for Sony is they have one hell of a TV arm. They produce some of the best TV shows on the planet. Blacklist is one of them. I can't remember all the shows that Sony produces, but they produce a lot of great content, such as The Blacklist. Blacklist is a great show. As a matter of fact, let me pull it up really quick, and let me see what shows that Sony produces that are currently on TV right now. Bear with me, guys. Give me 2 seconds here. Alright. So, Sony Pictures has one hell of an entertainment arm. That would be a prize for anybody looking to get into the streaming game, such as Apple. Or if somebody wants to compete with, I don't know, let's say Disney. So somebody like Netflix or Amazon or somebody like that. Sony Pictures, their movies, that's not the prize. Their TV arm is the big prize in all of this. And here are some of the here are some of the shows, and these are very popular shows, so I'm just going to kind of go down the list. And these are the shows that Sony Pictures produce right now. Shark Tank, The Dr. Oz Show. Let's see here. They produce... that's getting way too down the list. Okay, so let's go back up to where Shark Tank is. And I'm reading this off of Wikipedia. So, Dr. Oz Show... The Goldbergs, The Blacklist, Outlander on Stars. Let's see here. Better Call Saul, Notorious. No, sorry, not Notorious. That was 2016, but yeah, whatever. So Better Call Saul, $1,000 Pyramid, The Gong Show, The Crown, Preacher. They do The Amazing Race, I believe. SWAT. Let's see what else. What else? They were behind Cobra Kai on YouTube. Deadly Class on Sci-Fi. The Boys, which is a big hit for Amazon. Sony produces that. They're looking to do an untitled... So, here are some of the stuff that they're looking to do. They're looking to do some untitled Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse stuff. This deal goes flat with Disney. They won't be able to do that because Sony does not own the rights or does not hold the rights for anything TV. Anything at all. They hold the rights for live action stuff, but animated stuff, they have to get permission from Disney in order to show that. So if this deal doesn't go through, anything that Chris the Lord and the other guy, last name Miller, anything they want to do, they won't be able to do. United We Fall. I haven't seen a preview for that. Lincoln, Indebted. So that's pretty much it. So that's the big prize in this. Sony Pictures Television is the big prize in all this. I also think Sony Pictures, if I'm not mistaken, they also distribute stuff like The Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, and that's in syndication. So that's another thing. But you can see where I'm going here. Sony needs Spider-Man to work. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, people have this weird, idiotic notion that just because a movie, and I'm not saying all people, but you know, there's certain things on YouTube. There's this weird, idiotic notion that just because a movie makes $800 million, that's all profit. That's not true. So, for example, let's take a movie like Venom. So, let's find Venom here. Give me 2 seconds here. So, a movie like Venom. It was on a budget of $100 to $116 million. Now, Hollywood accounting is fuzzy at best. Hollywood accounting always comes up with creative ways to make their products look more profitable than they really are. It's one of the dirtiest, well-known secrets in Hollywood. It's the dumbest thing ever. It's stupid. It's idiotic. But it's what Hollywood does. Hollywood basically cooks their books, and Sony, and basically, so you look at Venom. They had a production budget of 100 million to 116 million, but that's not a true production budget. So when you're looking at a production budget, basically you can add about 15 to 20% on top of that for anything overage or anything like that. So Venom probably cost about 150 to... Actually, hang on, guys. So 100 plus 15%. Well, anyway, you could add about 115% on, or 15% on top of that 100 to 116 million. And I'm looking at Wikipedia right now, and it says that the Venom budget was 100 to 116 million. It made 856.1 million in the box office. So the rule of thumb in Hollywood is you always add about 50% of that total. So basically, you take that total and you double it. And that's what you get when you have marketing and everything like that. So that 100 to 116 million, that's about 200 to 116 times 2. So you're looking at about 200 to 232 million. And then you add all the ancillary stuff. So really, that movie, when it comes right down to it, it probably made about, it probably cost about 300 to 350 million just to get it out the door. And then another 50 million to pay out all the other stuff. So really, you're looking at about a $400 million picture, and it made 856 million. So that's only like 400 million profit for Sony. So Sony basically almost broke even on that movie. Jumanji. I just read an article in Deadline where Jumanji made 900 million, the first one, but Sony only saw like 400 million in profit. So you can see where I'm going with this. It's not always the case. They don't always make that 856.1 million for Venom that Venom did at the box office. That's not all profit. You have to subtract whatever the studio paid out, and that when they say 100 to 116 million on a budget, that's not necessarily true. Okay, so you think about that. Sony needs Spider-Man to work. Sony needs Spider-Man. If Sony decides to go it alone with Spider-Man, then Sony is basically one bad Spider-Man movie away from basically financial ruin. So the last Spider-Man movie that Sony did alone, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they only broke even on that. They only saw like $400 million in profit. I think they actually took a loss on that. Because it took them about $400 million to make, and it only made $700 million at the box office. So yeah, these Spider-Man movies are making about anywhere from 700 to 900 million at the box office, but Sony's not seeing a lot of money in return. And this is why I keep saying Sony does not have a pot to piss in. So, and Disney knows this. Disney knows full goddamn well that Sony's screwed. Disney, I truly believe, is playing the long game in this. Disney's not stupid. You do not become a $200 billion company. I think Disney is valued at over $200 billion. I could be wrong, but I think that's what I read somewhere. But Disney has a market cap of about $200 billion, which means they're about a $200 billion company. Anyway, you do not become a $200 billion company by making stupid decisions. Now, it's being said that Disney's walking away from the table. Now, if they're doing this, which, again, I said the other day would be stupid because the MCU is less profitable without Spider-Man in it. Now, yeah, the Avengers made a lot of money. All the Avengers films made a lot of money, but that's because it had Iron Man. It had Captain America. It had Hulk. It had Thor. It had Hawkeye, Black Widow. It had all these people. But after Avengers Endgame, you take away Captain, you take away Cap, you take away Black Widow, you take away Iron Man. That's going to hurt the profitability of the franchise. Going forward, if they don't have Spider-Man, the next Avengers movie is set to be the next Avengers team is going to be like Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, stuff like that. And while those were all great movies, don't get me wrong, I liked the Captain Marvel movie. I thought Black Panther was a fantastic movie. I thought Doctor Strange was really good. But these are characters, they cannot carry a tentpole franchise. They just can't. They don't have the marketing power. So Sony's gonna lose profitability on Avengers. Now, Sony has given themselves a couple of years to figure this out because they got nothing that needs Spider-Man's attention right now for about 2 years. So there's still time to get a deal done. Not only that, it's going to take Sony about 2 years to get a movie completed. And that's where Kevin Feige and Tom Holland's statements come into play. Now, a lot of people are reading too much into Feige's and Holland's statements at D23, and then Holland made another statement at some Comic-Con thing in Philly last night. Basically, they're taking Feige's statements and Holland's statements, and people are basically putting out that, well, Spider-Man's done in the MCU. I cannot stress this enough. You cannot read too much into what Kevin Feige and Tom Holland are saying, okay? Maybe if this fight wasn't public. So, whoever leaked this, be it Disney, be it Sony, I tend to believe it was Disney because Sony's got nothing to gain from this because Sony needs this deal to survive. Sony needs this deal to basically stave off a sale for, a couple of years. They need this deal to increase their profitability to get as much as they can from a sale that's going to be coming in the next 5 years, according to industry experts. It's coming. Somebody's going to buy it. That TV arm, like I said, is way too valuable. Somebody who wants to compete with Disney is going to buy it. Amazon, Netflix, Apple TV. It is known that Apple wants to get into the TV game. They want to get into the movie business. So, what better way than to buy Sony Studios? They won't get Spider-Man. They won't get James Bond because that's the thing. James Bond, if I'm not mistaken, and I've seen somebody posted a snippet of the contract on Twitter, and basically when Sony is sold, Spider-Man reverts back to Disney, James Bond reverts back to MGM, and whoever makes James Bond, I think it's Bandai or Namco or whatever studio has the rights to James Bond. Let me find out. James Bond. 007. No, James Bond. Literary character. That's not what I want. Okay, so Sony doesn't have James Bond anymore. According to Sony's distribution rights to James Bond, and I did not know this because I don't keep up with all this crap. I got other things to do with my spare time, and I don't keep up with all this crap. So, so a lot of people already know this, but Sony's distribution rights for James Bond, the James Bond franchise, expired in late 2015 with the release of Spectre. In 2017, MGM and Eon offered a one-film contract to co-finance and distribute the upcoming 25th James Bond movie, which was reported on May 25th to have been won by Universal Pictures. So Sony isn't distributing James Bond 25 anymore. That's Universal Pictures. Sony lost out. So Sony's biggest gun is the Spider-Man franchise. Sony is literally, and I mean this, to no exaggeration, they're literally one Spider-Man flop from fucking ruin. So Sony really needs this deal to work. That's just the way it is. So that's why I keep saying, this deal is not dead. Sony needs this deal to work. Disney knows this. This is why they're taking the stance they are. Because Disney knows that if they just wait Sony out for just a little bit longer, they'll get the rights to Spider-Man for free, and they won't have to pay a goddamn dime to Sony in order to do it. That's why they reportedly offered the 50-50 split, because they know Sony's got nowhere to turn. Sony cannot transfer those Spider-Man rights. They're non-transferable. So Sony can't go to someone like Comcast or Universal or anybody else. They can't say... There is a report saying that Sony wants $10 billion for the Spider-Man rights. The only people that can pay that $10 million is Disney. Disney won't pay it because they know they're going to get the rights back for free in a couple of years anyway. This is what's causing this rift in the first place. Disney, you can say they're bullying Sony. Yeah, they are, because they hold all the cards and they fucking know it. Sony cannot transfer those rights. They are licensing Spider-Man through Disney, and they can't transfer it. So they're up shit's creek without a paddle, and they just know it. So you cannot take anything said in the media at face value. Yeah, Feige said it was a joy, and that they knew time was finite, and they didn't have a lot of time to do. They knew this wasn't going to last forever. That's spin. That Feige is trained at this. He's arguably the most powerful guy in Hollywood right now. He runs the predominant movie studio in Hollywood right now. Marvel Pictures, 23 movies and counting. They have not had a single flop. So yeah, Marvel Studios is the predominant movie studio, the most powerful movie studio in Hollywood at this moment in time. So yeah, Kevin Feige is going to be measured. He's going to have a prepared statement. What he told Entertainment Weekly, I guarantee you that was prepared. He knew what he was going to say beforehand, and he said it. You cannot take that as confirmation of anything. When you're in a public negotiation, like Disney and Sony now find themselves in, the key is not to give any ammo to the other side. Not to give any leverage to the other side. So yeah, Feige's going to say, yeah, we knew time was finance. We told the story we want to tell, and that's the end of it. And he's doing that knowing full fucking well that Spider-Man's coming back to the MCU in about 2 to 5 years, which is why they don't have another Avengers movie scheduled for, surprise, surprise, another 2 to 5 fucking years. Disney knows this. They're banking on it. They're basically taking a calculated risk here. They know Sony has to come crawling back to them at some point to survive. They know Sony needs to come crawling back to them in order to make the most profit. It's no secret. Okay? So, when you find yourself in a public negotiation like Disney and Sony do, it's kind of like the NFL. you see this stuff all the time in the NFL. And the NFL is a great outlier because in the NFL you see public negotiations go on all the time. I know this, I've seen it. I actually watched this literally play out in April with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. Okay? So, for those of you that don't follow football or who aren't initiated with football or who aren't sports fans in general, the Seattle Seahawks are one of the best teams in the NFL. Russell Wilson is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Top 5 quarterback in the NFL. You got Tom Brady, you got Drew Brees, you got Aaron Rodgers, you got Russell Wilson, then there's everybody else. So, Russell Wilson had 1 year left on his deal. Now, the two sides were reportedly not talking up until April, until somebody leaked some information. Apparently, Sierra, who is Russell Wilson's wife, wanted to move back to New York so she can continue her music career, and so she can be closer to her production company, and, you know, that sort of thing. And then the hot takes started, and the rumors started floating, and all this shit. Colin Cowherd picked up on this. Basically, some insider industry, some NFL insider, one of the team executives, basically said that Russell Wilson, if Sierra moves back to New York, Russell Wilson would want to move back to New York to be closer to her. So basically, that initiated, and this was before the draft. So this was before the Giants drafted Daniel Jones at number 6. So a lot of rumors were initiated that, oh, Russell Wilson could be traded to New York. And I think the rumor was that Seattle was going to trade him for like 5 first-round draft picks or some bullshit like that. And that got the rumor mill flying. And then there was a report that came out when it was closer to tax day. Basically, there was a report out that said, and this has been proven to be leaked by Russell Wilson's camp, basically his agent, that if the Seahawks and Russell Wilson did not get a deal done by April 15th, which was tax day, Russell Wilson would never sign a contract with the Seahawks ever again. It was leaked by Wilson's agent, and this has been confirmed by multiple sources. This is something I do pay attention to, because I am a diehard Seahawks fan, and I read NFL shit all day long. I watch the NFL Network all day long. This is what I'm privy in. This is my world. So, this is why I'm talking about the NFL, and this is why I'm applying it to the Sony Disney current contract dispute. So, back to Russell Wilson. The rumor was if Russell Wilson didn't sign a contract with the Seahawks, that he would never play for the Seahawks again. It was a negotiating tactic by Russell Wilson's agent. It was meant to get the fans on his side and the fans against the Seahawks, and it worked. See, we Seahawks fans, we know if we don't have Russell Wilson, we're fucked. Russell Wilson is the thing that makes our team go. Without Russell Wilson, we're a 4 to 6 win team. With Russell Wilson, we're a 10 to 13 win team. That's just the way it goes. So yeah, it worked like a charm. It got us all riled up. It got Seahawks fans all riled up, and they let their feelings being known. They let the Seahawks have it. There were people going on Twitter basically saying that they need to get Russell Wilson re-signed or else they would stop being a fan of the team. It got bad, and it was all because that Russell Wilson's agent wanted public sentiment on his side, and he got it. This is why somebody probably from Disney leaked this stuff to the media about these negotiations. They wanted the public on their side, and they got it. So this is why you can't take anything coming from Feige or anything coming from Holland seriously, because they're trained to do this. The key is do not give leverage to the other fucking side. It's the key. It's the rule of thumb. When Russell Wilson and when the contract dispute between Russell Wilson and the Seahawks came up, everything Russell Wilson said was calculated. He said, I want to be a Seahawk forever. He said, I don't want to go anywhere else. He said everything he needed to say as to not give leverage to one side or the other, because if he said that, he would have gotten less money. Russell Wilson is now the highest paid player in the NFL, by the way. So yeah, it's all about leverage. Disney's saying the right things because then it puts pressure on Sony and it gives them leverage. It takes away Sony's leverage. There's a reason why Sony put out that press release or that Twitter statement, that statement on Twitter the night the news broke. They were trying to put the pressure back on Disney and create some leverage. That's why Kevin Feige and Tom Holland are saying what they're saying, because they don't want to create any leverage either way. Well, Tom Holland doesn't want to create any leverage either way. Kevin Feige works for Disney. So, of course, Kevin Feige is going to come out and say what he needs to say, so he doesn't give any leverage to Sony, because if he does, then Sony's got leverage in this thing, and they want Disney to hold all the fucking cards. It's pretty much that simple. That's all there is to it. Anyway, if you understand the mechanics of how these things work, and you don't freak out about it, and you don't take it for face value, and you don't get riled up at every little thing, you'll understand this. So, where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with Disney holding all the cards and Sony holding, well, jack shit, really. So, here's the deal. It's going to take Disney 2 years, or Sony 2 years to get Spider-Man 3 in theaters. Now, Tom Holland said he met with his creative team, and yeah, there are reports that there's a script for Spider-Man 3 in the works. Of course there is. They need to have a movie completed and in theaters by 2021, or else the rights revert back to Disney. Sony has 2 to 5 years to make a Spider-Man movie before the rights revert back to Disney. That's why Deadline reported that the writers for Spider-Man Far From Home and Spider-Man Homecoming are working on Spider-Man 3. I guarantee you, as a matter of fact, I promise you, those two are working on 2 scripts right now. One with MCU and one without MCU. Nothing's done yet. And yes, Tom Holland said he met with his creative team. That's all perfectly normal. That's what you want. That's what you're supposed to do. Remember, Sony is the business. They have certain obligations they have to meet as per the contract they signed back in 1999 when they signed that contract with Marvel and licensed Spider-Man. They have certain obligations that they have to meet, or they lose that license back to Marvel, and they don't make a fucking dime, and they're screwed. So yeah, it doesn't mean that Spider-Man is out of the MCU. It just means things are moving along as they should, okay? So there was a report saying from Cosmic News, like I said the other day, it was from Lords of the Long Box. Basically, Sony and Disney wanted to get that deal done by D23. That didn't happen, which is fine. So, in the next 4 months, here's what to watch out for in the next 4 months. So, I anticipate a deal is going to get done within the next 4 to 6 months. There's just too much money riding on the table. Sony needs this deal way too much. And I don't care what Tom Rothman says about feeling confident that they can do it on their own. They cannot. Okay, that is spin. Tom Rothman is saying what he has to do so as not to give Disney any leverage. So Tom Rothman said that he's confident they can do it without Disney. Of course they're confident they can do it without Disney. Because if Tom Rothman came out and said, yeah, no, I don't think we can do it, that gives Disney more fucking leverage, okay? That's just the way it is. So, 4 months. 4 to 6 months. I anticipate this deal to get done in 4 to 6 months. And if it doesn't get done, then you can all come on here and say, I told you so. You know, that sort of thing. But I anticipate it's going to get done in 4 to 6 months. Things to watch out for. Okay? So, Sony's got a couple of big movies coming out this fall. So, let me go into this. Nothing for October. Actually, yeah, they do have a couple things in October. I'm looking at September. So September, Sony's got really nothing going on. But next week, pay attention to how the re-release from Far From Home does. That's going to tell you, that's going to be a major indicator. If Far From Home does not do anything, that's a flashing red light. That's a warning light. That's basically the fans saying they want this. They want Spider-Man back in the MCU. So if that doesn't do a lot of money, that's a warning light. Alright, so I'm looking at stuff for October. So in October, they have Zombieland Double Tap coming out. It's the sequel to the original Zombieland. Let me see. How much did Zombieland rake in? It cost them $102.3. Let's see, what's the box office? Yada, yada, yada. Okay, so it cost them $23 million to make. They made $102.3 million at the box office. So Zombieland's gonna have to make a shitload of money to get a return on investment. So watch out for Zombieland Double Tap. Okay, if that performs as well as Zombieland or underperforms, that's gonna be a big red that's gonna be a second big red warning light. Okay, so that's in October. Their next big release, their next big franchise is Charlie's Angels. Comes out in November. If that thing underperforms, well, Sony's in trouble. Like I said earlier, without James Bond, Spider-Man is their most profitable franchise. Their most profitable IP. James Bond and Spider-Man were their most profitable IPs. They lost James Bond. Now that's gone. So Sony is basically one Spider-Man flop away from being screwed. So, yeah, look out for Zombieland and Charlie's Angels. If those underperform, Sony's in trouble, and you can guarantee, I can almost promise you, that Sony will go back to Disney, head in hand, and they will beg Disney for whatever deal that Disney is willing to give them. I guarantee it. Okay, so that's everything they have coming out this year. Now, they have a couple of things coming out next year. Let me see here. 2020. So, January, March 2020. Grudge ain't gonna do shit. They have Bad Boys for Life coming out in January. Now, So watch out for that one too. Trying to see if they have anything coming out. Any big tentpole franchises for next year. Okay, that's war, that's action, that's drama. Okay, they have Greyhound, but that's going up against Black Widow. They have Ghostbusters 2020 coming out next year. But anyway, those two movies I mentioned this year, and possibly Bad Boys for Life, watch out for those. If those underperform, I promise you Sony's going to have to go back to Disney, head in hand, and take whatever deal Disney offers them, because they're going to be screwed. That's just my personal opinion, but I think this deal will get done within the next 3 to 6 months because Sony has got to be freaking out right now. They have got to be doing the same math that I just told you about, and they have got to be realizing they need Sony for this to work. Because if they release Spider-Man 3 in 2021 and it underperforms, and it doesn't do nearly enough like Spider-Man Far From Home and Spider-Man Homecoming did, they're done. They're finished. They got nothing. So there's that. Anyway, that's all I got to say on this subject for now. But yeah, hold out. Keep holding out hope. This deal is gonna get done. There's way too much money on the table. Sony needs it way too much to survive. This deal is going to get done. I promise you this. This deal is going to get done. That is my personal opinion. So yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Peace.